Nearly 7 years after author Amanda Lindhout was kidnapped in Somalia, the RCMP announced an arrest in the case Friday. 2 days after arriving in Mogadishu in August 2008, Lindhout and Australian photographer Nigel Brennan were abducted. For 15 months, Lindhout endured confinement and abuse. Somali national Ali Omar Adder was arrested in Ottawa last Thursday. He now faces a criminal charge of hostage-taking. Amanda joins us now from Calgary. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the RCMP has been working on your case, on Nigel's case, for years now. Amanda, tell me how often you were in contact with them.
Well, I was aware that this case was ongoing from the time that I was released from captivity. It was a file that had been started while I was in captivity. And over the last 5.5 years, the RCMP have met with me very regularly, flying to me anywhere that I might be in Canada to update me about the status of this case. I have been privy to some details, but certainly not all details about the case, and I'm obviously limited in what I can say that I knew about it, but I did know that they were after this guy, and I did know that it was a possibility that they might arrest him, but for me, after all these years had passed, I think I hadn't let myself really fully believe that it was actually a possibility. And on Thursday night, when I got the call at my home in Canmore, I was really taken aback and surprised and very overwhelmed by the news.
So it was a phone call. Your RCMP contact phoned you and said what, Amanda?
Well, my contact, this man that I have come to know over the last 5 years, asked me if I was sitting down. I wasn't. I was standing and desperate to hear what he had to say, and he just came out with the news that they had arrested him in Ottawa, and I collapsed on the floor. I fell to my knees, and I think I wept for about 5 minutes. I was so overwhelmed and relieved in a way. I had been preparing myself all these years for the possibility that he would never be caught, and the fact that it culminated in that moment that he was in a prison in Ottawa awaiting trial is something akin to a dream come true in some ways.
In Somalia, you knew this man as Adam, and you describe him as a leader, a decision maker. Tell me more about him.
He was a man that I came to know. He visited the house several times, and he was someone who was in very regular contact with my mother. He was the primary negotiator for these guys, but he was, as I have said, a decision maker and a leader. So my daily life in captivity, as anybody who has read my book, A House in the Sky, knows, was very severe. And he was part of that decision-making process that allowed those boys to starve me and to abuse me and mistreat me in the ways that they did. In addition to the fact that on an almost daily basis, he was terrorizing my dear mother here in Canada, demanding money from her, threatening my life, really terrible things.
And he tried to contact you via Facebook last year.
He did, if you can believe the audacity of that man to last summer contact both my mother and I over Facebook demanding to speak to me. I didn't respond to his message. I simply sent it on to the authorities, but my mother did engage him in a little conversation, 4 or 5 messages back and forth. She was feeling so angry about the way that I had been treated and was demanding some answers from him. He more or less relinquished any responsibility for his actions onto those young teenage boys who had abused me, saying that it was the gang's fault and not his.
Does this help? Does this help, the news of this arrest, help with the healing process, which I'm sure is ongoing?
Thanks for asking that, Marcy. It does help with that. I've always said that my healing isn't contingent on these guys being in jail. And yet this is a form of justice. There are consequences for actions, and he created a lot of suffering for me. So I think that it is a good place for him to be behind bars. I think that this is his destiny.
You know, there are a lot of questions about how Mr. Adder came to Canada, how Canadian police were able to get him here. And I know that you're limited in what you can say, but can you shed any light at all on that?
All I can say is I had nothing to do with him coming to Canada. I did not know that he was going to be in Canada, and that I was as surprised as everybody was to discover that he was here.
We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.